First Nation has confirmed that the remains of 2015 children who were students of the Kamloops Indian Residential School have been found on the reserve using ground-penetrating radar. In a news release, Tk'emlúps and Secwépemc First Nation Chief Rosanne Casimir calls the discovery an unthinkable loss that was spoken about but never documented by the Kamloops Indian Residential School, which was the largest school in the country's Indian Affairs residential school system. We had a knowing in our community that we were able to verify. To our knowledge, these missing children are undocumented deaths, Casimir said. Some were as young as 3 years old. We sought out a way to confirm that, knowing out of deepest respect and love for those lost children and their families, understanding that Tk'emlúps is the final resting place of these children. Vice Premier John Horgan issued a statement early Friday saying he was horrified and heartbroken to hear about the burial site. In honor Tk'emlúps as they grapple with this burden from a dark chapter of Canadian history and uphold their commitment to complete this investigation over the coming weeks, bringing to light the full truth of this loss, say Horgan. Each child has been forever taken from a family and a community that loves them. This is a tragedy of unimaginable proportions and is a stark example of the violence the Canadian residential school system inflicted upon Indigenous people and how the consequences of those atrocities continue this day. Horgan says support services are available for those affected by this news. A National Indian Residential School Crisis Line has been set up to provide support for former residential school students and those affected. Access emotional and crisis referral services by calling the 24-hour National Crisis Line 1-866-925-4419. The work was undertaken by the Tk'emlúps Language and Culture Department with ceremonial knowledge keepers who ensured that the work was conducted respectfully in light of the serious nature of the investigation, with cultural protocols being upheld. Casimir said that given the children are buried with the Tk'emlúps Secwépemc community, and with all community members still grappling with the effect of residential school, chief and council first reached out to their community members to make them aware of the situation. Contact that continues. Lisa Laponte, BC's chief coroner, said the BC Coroner Service was advised by the Tk'emlúps about the discovery of the burial sites and is in the process of gathering information. We recognize the tragic, heartbreaking devastations that the Canadian residential school system has inflicted upon so many, and our thoughts are with all of those who are in mourning today, said Laponte in a statement Thursday. Casimir said the Kamloops will continue to work with the ground-penetrating radar specialists to complete the survey of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School ground, which are on the corner of Highway 5 and Tk'emlúps Road. Preliminary work in confirming that the remains of the children were on the reserve began in early 2000s, Casimir said, with the radar technology confirming the stories. We are thankful for the pathway of healing grants we received to undertaking this important work, Casimir said. Given the size of the school, with up to 500 students registered and attending at any one time, we understand that this confirmed loss affects First Nations communities across British Columbia and beyond. We wish to ensure that our community members, as well as all home communities for the children who attended, are duly informed. This is the beginning, but given the nature of this news, we felt it's important to share immediately. And this time, we have more questions than answers. We look forward to providing updates as they become available. Tk'emlúps is now in communication with the BC Corner Services, reaching out to the home communities that had children who attend Kamloops Indian Residential Schools and taking measures to ensure the location of the remains are protected. In addition, the Secwépemc Museum archivist is working with the Royal British Columbian Museum, among others, to seek out any existing records of the dead. Tk'emlups Heritage Park is closed to the public and no one will be permitted on site for the duration of the work. The band is expected to complete a preliminary finding by mid-June and will be providing updates as they become available. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, note that a large number of Indigenous children who were sent to residential schools never returned to their home communities. Some children ran away and others died in the schools. Students who did not return have come to be known as the Missing Children. The Missing Children Project documents the death and the burial places of children who die while attending the schools. To date, more than 4,100 children who die while attending a residential school have been identified. The Kamloops Industrial School, later known as the Kamloops Indian Residential School, was opened under Roman Catholic administration in 1890. It was part of the Canadian residential school system, established as part of the government policy of forced assimilations that results in the oppression of generations of Indigenous children. It was one of the more than 130 such schools that operate in Canada between 1874 and 1996. Located on the traditional territory of the Secwépemc people, hundreds of Secwépemc and other First Nations children attend the Kamloops School. Students were sent there from as far away as Penticton, Hope, Montgomery, Lillooet, and others outside the province. Enrolled peaked at the early 1950s at 500. Children were forcibly removed from their homes once attendance became mandatory by law in the 1920s, with their parents under threat of prison if they refused. Students leave in school from September to June, alienated from their family except for Christmas and Easter visits. It became the largest school in the Indian Affairs residential school system. In 1969, the federal government took over the administration of the school, which no longer provide any classes and operate as residence for students attending local day schools until 1978, when the residence was closed. This is Omar Global Radio News.